This conference will now be recorded.
Before moving to the session, I would like to introduce Professor Sharma to all of us. Sir has done his UG from SDM College of Ayurved Udupi. Sir has done his post-graduation from Banaras Hindu University, we all know it as BHU, in Shalya Tantra. Sir is in teaching profession since 1983. Before 2 years, in 2018, he got retired from the college, and now is a medical superintendent in the same hospital. So, sir has his private practice in Shalya Tantra since 1983. So, sir has got a vast experience of practice of 37 long years. So, without wasting too much of time in introduction, I would request Vaidya Muralidhara Sharma sir to guide us today.
Thank you, Vaidya Nilesh. Now, I welcome all the participants in the webinar. And I have heard that there will be many practitioners as well as students, but my focus will be for the students. Now, the issue is about identity of Acharya Sushrut. Of course, many people have asked me, like, who is Sushruta and how Sushruta would be looking like, whether he has a beard or not. Now, those words, and of course, all that what we get from the text is Sushruta was a son of Vishwamitra. We don't get any more details. The question is it necessary to have those details, or can we build up the personality of Sushruta in a different manner? Now, if you search for the image of Sushruta in the Google, you'll get a series of images which very interesting. I think I just will go through some of the commonly seen images in the Google search, which do not conclude anything. And anyone who wishes to have some idea, he would be giving his idea, and then an image of Sushruta is created. And this is not important at all. For me, I would like to say, like these features, whatever the dress or whatever the color, or whether he had a beard or not, these are not the important issue. The important issue is Sushruta is and his contribution. Now, many people say that Sushruta is the father of surgery. I won't accept that word because there cannot be a father for the surgery. So surgery is not born by any man. And if you say like who Sushruta is the father, next question would be who is the mother? And I can't answer that question. So I think that question also is invalid. But what I would recognize as a contribution of Sushruta is the oldest documented method of method of training and a practice of surgery, and probably you won't have such a detailed text anywhere in the world at that time of Sushruta. Sushruta's time again, there is a lot of controversy. Uh, Historians say Sushruta was in 600 BC, 400 BC, or so on. But whatever it is, we will not go into the controversy. But it's well known that Sushruta's period would be something before 3000 BC. Now, comparatively, at that time, anywhere in the world, there was no any written document about the surgery or surgical practice. If you go into the search of medical history in any of the current documented textbooks, Western rather, you'll get the record like the Edwin Smith papyrus of 300 BC as the oldest. But I'm 100% sure Sushruta was much older than that. But somehow the prejudiced historians do not mention about Sushruta's period in that period. Rather, they consider the Edwin Smith papyrus document as the oldest document of the surgery. All right, leave off those bias. We'll see what's the reality as such. The at present surgery is rather, though it was contribution of Sushruta and it was well developed in India. At present, the surgery we look for the West for any of the new developments, and most of the times the surgery from Ayurvedic doctors, Ayurvedic Vaidyas, they are considered as something like a second grade surgery or so on. So criticism, about that, lots of criticisms. Again, that's not the point what we are going to discuss. But to appreciate what Sushruta is, you have to have some fair idea of what the Western surgery, it's not to criticize the Western surgery or so on. I'll just give you a fair idea of a very brief rather idea of what the state of surgery was in the West, and then we'll come to the topic. This is somewhat introduction to the topic as such. In the West, surgery was considered, particularly in the Greek practice, surgery was considered as a part of witchcraft. And the patient who was possessed with the demon, he would be rather injured, rather, considering that it's the demon who is injured. And if the person is cured, then say that the surgery has cured that person, and the demon is chased away. And if the person has not got cured and he is dead, then say that the demon has taken him away. This was the idea of a surgery in the oldest days of Greece history. And barbers were the surgeons. It was not a part of the medicine. Barbers and priests were doing this job. And most of these surgeries, so-called surgeries, were conducted in an amphitheater. And lots of people will be clapping around when a patient shouts or when there is a gush of blood from the body. A surgeon with lots of stain on the body, on his dress, would be recognized as a great surgeon. This was the fate in the Western situation. And the concept of the hygiene came into vogue only in 19th century. Till then, the idea of the concept of hygiene was not there. The area of surgery was not a part of the medicine discipline at all. It was dealt with by barbers, and that's why very often you have a literary term like the surgery is barbarian, because it was done by the barbers. And this was the fate at that time. Now, all these are important to appreciate what Sushruta had at something around 3000 BC, something around 2700 earlier than whatever you have the records. The history of modern surgery, the Western surgery, it has become a part of the medical study only in 1816. Now, all these statements which I have made, it's not my statement. You can source these statements from any of these references. I have just kept the reference to say that whatever I have said is authentic. Now, just a brief statement, like in 1811, there was a great debate in London, in the Parliament of London, about including surgery into the medical curriculum. And one of the important statements, I'm not going to much of the detail as such, one of the comment at that time by a famous parliamentarian, Lord Turlo, was there is no more science in surgery than in butchery. Of course, in the Western surgery, bloodletting was one of the most common treatment. And President of USA at that time, Rutherford, he died due to overbleeding. And that led to a sort of revolution. And whatever we see as the new development in the surgery started from that time as such. Surgery was included into the system of medicine as a part of the curriculum of medicine only in 1816. Till then, it was not a part of the medical curriculum. And whatever we see as the development in the West, it has occurred from that day onwards. And we have to appreciate that part. Like there was a huge development to such a level that now we from India have to look at them for any of the grace. And the India is pushed to back. So everyone who comes from the Ayurvedic stream now has to think of this issue, why and how. Anyway, that's one part of it. Now let us come to the main point. The point is that how we have to identify Sushruta. I would not identify Sushruta by his physical features. Rather, I would prefer to identify Sushruta by his achievements or maybe the traits, the characters, physical characters, not the physical characters, but his intellectual characters and the qualities as such. We can build up the whole image. So I'm trying to build up the image of Sushruta, a virtual image of Sushruta, based upon what we see in the Samhita says. Now, Sushruta started as a student. Now, Sushruta Samhita is written by a Sushruta who was a student, and it's something like a class notes. And the teacher was Kashiraja Devadatta. The Sushruta and his fellows, his colleagues, they approached the teacher demanding for the study, teaching of Ayurveda, and they opted for Ayurveda with a huge concern about the suffering of the people, and with an idea like they could help in reducing the suffering of the humanity, and it also can help in their own career, build up of the career. So Sharira Manasa Agantubihi Vyadibihi Vedanabigat Upadrutan Sanathan Anathabat Vitesamanan Vikrotascha Manavan Abhisamiksha Manasa Manasi na Pira Bhavati. Desham Sukhisham रोगोपशमार्थम आत्मनश्च प्राणयात्रार्थम प्रजाहित हेतोः आयुर्वेदं श्रोतुमिच्छामः इह उपदिश्यमानम् अत्र आयत्तम् ऐहिकम् आमुष्मिकं च श्रेयः. So the important point is students had opted, they had known about the subject, they had opted for the subject on their own choice. Unfortunately, in the present day situation, most of the students, when they come to the field of Ayurveda, I'm not saying all, most of the students, when they come to the field of Ayurveda, they may not know exactly what's Ayurveda or so on. They might have been pushed into this course either by the peer pressure, maybe the parents, or maybe simply because there was no other choice, they have come here as a second choice. But of course, though you have come to the choice, still we can adopt the mentality of Sushruta due course of time. Like the basic is either you love and marry or you marry and love. But unless these two combinations, marry and love, hold together, life will be chaos. It will be calamity. So whether you have come to the field of Ayurveda by choice or by compulsion, still at one stage you have to adopt that psychology of Sushruta, like you have to depend upon it and you have to make use of it, and with an idea of serving the society, we have to adopt to that situation. That's one of the important issues. Now, the other, Sushruta was not simply a student; she was really impressed upon, or rather impressing upon, a methodical study. I'm just quoting only from Sushruta. The methodical studies, the first is Shastram Gurum Khod Girdam Adaya Upasya Asakrata Yakarma Kurude Vaidyaha Savaidyaha Anyetu Taskaraha. Those who get their knowledge only through the teacher, a proper method of teaching, they can just gain the knowledge. If you have any alternate means, I use the word now in the contemporary situation, professors of practice. Professors of practice are the medical representatives. There are many practitioners who practice based upon the knowledge you have gained in the practice by the medical representatives. They are not really the Vaidyas. If we have to be called as Vaidya, you should have a methodical knowledge gained through a proper channel, through the institutions and through the teachers. So institutional training was one of the important basic issues. Now, during the study again, it's not simply learning the things by heart. You have to develop the knowledge step by step. This is what Sushruta had done. Sushruta had developed the knowledge based upon the 4 steps. Vaksasve, Arthavijnane, Ragalbhye, Karmanaipune, Tadabhyase cha siddho cha yateta adhyayanantagaha. The first of the step would be Vaksaustava, to have a clear ability to pronounce whatever you have studied. Then Arthavijnane, try to understand the meaning of what you have studied. Then next is Pragalbhya, is try to have a broader understanding of extra meanings of whatever that possible, contextual meanings to the subject which you have studied. Then Karmanaipuna, skill, hands-on skill is an essential part of the study, but it's not enough if you have a training once, you have to practice it repeatedly, and only when you have practiced it repeatedly, then only you will get the perfection. So ultimately the target would be siddhi, that's perfection, or perfection is doing anything without efforts. So this method of study is a very standard study method, irrespective of the subject you study, whether it is Ayurveda, medicine, or engineering, or any other branch. This is absolutely a correct method. Any educationist would accept. Like there cannot be anything better than this about the expression of the study. Now, how to achieve this is Shuchihi Guru Parodaksha Tandra Nitra Vibhagitha Patanetena Vidhina Shishya Shastrantam Apniyata. The discipline of the study has to be maintained throughout, and you should maintain your potential, and you are not supposed to bother about the comforts of the life during the study. Tandra Nitra Vibhagitha. That's the basis of method of study what Sushruta had done. Again, during the study, it's not simply because the syllabus has suggested something you have to study. It's instead the study should be of the realistic subject. So should have had a stress on this part, and the study would be with focusing on the skill, hands-on skill, as well as the theoretical knowledge. Yastu kevala shastrajnah karmasu aparinischitah sah mushyati aturam prapya bhyuru. If you are having a knowledge, theory knowledge only, but you do not have a practical skill of whatever you have studied, you will be like a covered in the warfield. You will be running away from the practice. Whereas yastu karmasu nispratah dhasyat shastra bahiskritah sasatsu pujam napnoti vadham charchati rajatah. If at all there is any person who prefers a shortcut and instead of studying methodically, but somehow gets the hands-on skill, so-called compounder practices, and such a person, according to Sushruta, should be executed. And if at all such a person is continuing to practice, is a defect of the administration. The administration should take care of the quality of the medicine. उभवेतौ अनिपुणौ असमर्थौ स्वकर्मणि अर्धवेदधरावेतौ एकपक्षौ विवद्विजौ. If you do not have the skill of both practice and theory, then you will be like a bird with one wing and you will be useless. So this motto was a part of the study of Sushruta. So as Sushruta as a student had knew about this aspect and he was focusing on this part of the study. But it's not only about the subject and the depth of the study, it's the ethical part of the study also. The ethical part of the study is one important is yastu ubhayajnah matiman sasamartah artha sadhane ahave karma nirvodhu dichakras chandano yatha. Like you have to focus on both the theory as well as the practice, and then only you will be having a perfect study. It's not only about that. The subject which you have studied, like either the medicine or the shastra surgery, is quite dangerous if at all you do not get a perfect skill of that. So, औषध्यः अमृतकल्पास्तु शस्त्र अशनि विशोपमाः भवन्ति अज्ञैः उपहृताः तस्माद् एतान् विवर्जयेत्. So, a jnana, a perfect knowledge of whatever the technology you have, this is the most important part. If you do not have the knowledge of the technology, then it will be harmful and it can really hurt the people. Nihanti janam lobhat kuvedyah nrupadoshatah. A person who is practicing without a proper knowledge of the skills of practice, it could be the snehadi chikitsa or chedyadi chikitsa, like either the medical treatment or the surgical treatment. He will be killing the humanity, and that again is if such a person is continuing to practice, it's a failure of the administration. Now, it's not enough only you focus on the skill and practice, you have to have a broad-based study. Sushruta had focused on that broad-based study. The broad-based study is ekam shastram adhiyanah na vidyat shastranisham tasmat bahushrutah shastram vidaniya chikitsakah. So it's not enough if you study only one subject, you have to study all the other allied subjects. Maybe in the contemporary situation, the contemporary medicine. It's not enough if you study only the Ayurvedic text. There is a need to be aware of all the developments which are occurring around in the modern medicine even. But how to learn that? It's not that you just learn by any shortcut. It should be by through the experts in the same field. Ani shastropapanam cha arthanam iha upanitanam arthavashat tesham tadvidyabhya vyakhyanam anushrotavyam. So you have to get the information from the same persons of the same branch, and with the specialized knowledge, the knowledge has to be broad-based. So Sushruta had a very broad-based knowledge. And to study, there has to be a scientific method. See, it's not enough if you just go on reading and then trying to just have a huge vocabulary. That's not enough. You have to have the proper understanding of the subject. And that's why Sushruta says, यथा खरश्चंदन भारवाही भारस्य वेत्ता न तु चंदनस्य एवं हि शास्त्राणि बहूनि अधीत्य अर्थेषु मूढाः खरवद्वहन्ति. If you do not know the exact interpretation of whatever you have studied, but you have a huge vocabulary, that would be something like a donkey carrying a load of sandalwood, and it doesn't know the value of the sandalwood. Of course, we believe that donkey doesn't know the value, and we say that donkey is not intelligent. And maybe the donkey may be saying that the human being is the worst dull person and it may be the more intelligent. Anyway, we will not go into that debate as such. To get into this level of a perfect knowledge, you have to have satada adhyanam vadah paratantravalokkanam tadvidya acharya sevaja buddhi medha karoganah. Intelligence, your capacity to grasp the knowledge and capacity to make use of that knowledge would be developed if you follow satata adhyanam, a continuous study, and discussion amongst yourselves vadah, and then paratantravalokkanam, a parallel study of the parallel subject. And you have to follow what the teachers are doing. It's not only the text which teaches in the field, there are many other skills of the practice which can be directly taught in person from the teachers. And these are considered as buddhi medha karogaraha. They will improve your capacity. And again, when you say study, it's not like it continuously reads throughout the day. Sushruta's method of study and something, a model even for today. He would say that you are not supposed to study regularly. There should be some interruptions in the study, and that interruptions will be one regular interruptions like Krishna Ashtami Tannidhani Ahani Dve Shukle Tatapi Evam Ahad Visanhyam. Once in a week, once in 8 days, one day would be off, and it could be either Ashtami or the 15th day of the fortnight. Now you take the holiday on Sunday. Sushruta says it should be the first day of the month, 8th day of the month, 15th day of the month. It's exactly the same as you follow now. In educationists should appreciate that this kind of a introduction in the beginning, in the course of the study, would avoid a possibility of aversion to the study. And moreover, the study may be interrupted because of the contemporary situations which are going around in the surroundings. A student should be responding to what's going on in the surroundings. It's not that he is limited to the classroom, four walls of the classroom. And akala vidyut stanayit nugoshe sudandra astak shirikabheta. So if there is any calamity like COVID going on, then the study should maybe stop. Or if there is any akala vidyut, like unseasonal events which occur, either it could be a flood, earthquake, and so on. In such conditions, we are not supposed to study. And the location of the study also is important. Smashanayana adyatana ahveshu, we are not supposed to study during a travel or during in a crematorium or so on, such unholy places. The area also is important. And during the study, Sushruta was not a silent student. She would be asking very deep questions to the teacher, and only when the questions are asked, the teacher would be answering the question. The basic agreement of the teaching by Dhanvantari with Sushruta also was the same. Like before coming to the class, the students had to have an interaction among themselves, and only the questions asked by the teacher, asked by the student, would be answered by the teacher, and that's how the whole course would be continued. You have some of the examples of how Sushruta had asked the question. In each context, Sushruta would be asking the question and the teacher would be answering. And these are certain of the examples of those questions as it. So it's not a one-way teaching as we see in most of the institutions. The teaching again was in an unbiased environment. Unlike most, I don't say like in any of the institutions, but it's one of the plagues of the current method of education, the bias or prejudices either of the teachers or of the students. Sushruta's environment of study was a unbiased method where a teacher would say, like, if I am biased, if the teacher is biased, then, or if the teacher shows a prejudice, then Yeno bhag bhavayam apala vidyasya, sin will be on the teacher, and the teacher's whatever the knowledge will be of no use. So such a method of imposing a discipline on the teacher himself was the environment in which Sushruta had studied. And that makes the student a stronger. And pratyakshata chayatristam shastradristam chet bhavet samasa taduvayam bhuyah jnana vivartana. The study would be of both whatever you see directly by direct perception as well as shastradristam, whatever is seen in the text. It's not only the textual text as well as you follow the practical clinical field. These are the important areas of the study, and there should be no bias, no prejudice. If a pratyaksha, whatever you see, is not agreed by the Shastra, then you have to accept it as such. And there again, the to accept, like which is to be accepted, whether whatever is derived from the logic or whatever you see in the reality or whatever you see in the text, which is to be accepted. But Sushruta had followed was प्रत्यक्ष लक्षणफलाः प्रसिद्धाश्च स्वभावतः नौषधीः हेतुभिः विद्वान् परीक्षेत कदाचन सहस्रेणापि हेतूनां नाम्यस्थादिः विरेचेत तस्मात् तिष्ठेत मतिमान् आगमे न तु हेतुषु. At times he also would say mantravat samprayoktavayam namimamshim kadanchana. Whenever you have some definite evidence present in the text and the same is seen in practice, then there will be no question. You have to follow. If your any theory is presented in the text as well as it's also seen in practice, then you have to accept without any questioning. No logic, no reason. And that's exactly what Sushruta gives an example. Sahasrenapi hetunam nambastadihi virechayet. Ambastadi Ganadravya cannot produce the virechana because logically it will have a Kashaya Tiktarasa and Ushnavirya, but it produces the virechana. So text says that it produces the virechana, and practically you can see that it's the virechana. So no more discussion, no more logic in that. So logic will push to the background if there is a textual support as well as whatever see in the evidence. Now, न शक्य चक्षुषा द्रष्टुं देहे सूक्ष्मतमो विभुः दृश्यते ज्ञानचक्षुर्भिः तत्पश्चात् तपश्चक्षुभिः एव च. There are certain things which you cannot see directly. See, pratyaksham alpam. You cannot see everything. You cannot appreciate everything by direct knowledge. So when there is no such scope for seeing anything by a direct knowledge, then you have to depend upon what the peers have said, and the peers might have gained the knowledge by either jnana chakshu or tapachakshu. Jnana chakshu is instinctual knowledge, tapachakshu is by experience. So there the priority would be to the experience and the instinctual knowledge of your elders, and that's how it has to be perceived. The knowledge has to be perceived, and this is exactly the method of accepting what the issue is. And wherever there is a possibility, you have to extend the capacity of the Pratyaksha Jnana or direct knowledge. And Sushruta had that practical record of establishing a method of dissecting the dead body. Imagine about that situation, so many 3,000 or 7,000 years back. A dead body being dissected. Maybe the method may be looking somewhat crude now, but Sushruta had that courage of dissecting the method, and that's how the stress on the Pratyaksha Jnana was given. So a balanced view of whatever the logic as well as the reality was the basic approach of the study of Sushruta. And Sushruta had, as a student, had all this. Now, Sushruta had an egalitarian approach. The idea of class was not there at that time. So, and at that time, of course, maybe in the other field, a Veda, a part of the basic knowledge, Ayurveda being a basic knowledge, and as per the customs at that period, was not available or cannot be entered by the lowest cadre of the society. But Sushruta, you have got that evidence where Shudramapi Kulaguna Sampannam Mantravardyam Anupanitam Adhyapayet Jeke. Even that lowest community, which otherwise in the society there was a social norm of abiding them, but Sushruta had an egalitarian approach where this class and creed was not a part of the issue, and the whole development would be even during the treatment also. You will have to consider those patients who come from any surroundings. It could be Vija Guru Daridra Mitra Pravradita, it could be of any of that. They have to be treated as Atma Bandhavan You have to consider every patient coming to you as if they are your relative. So class and creed is not a part of the environment where the study was done by Sushruta. Now, hands-on skill. The study would not be simply studying the theory or observing. It's not simply the observing. It has so at the end of the study, Sushruta had to undergo a course of hands-on training, which is called as Yogya Vidhi, something like what we say as the internship in the present day situation. So that Yogya Vidhi would be on a model which would have some simulators. The present days you have the simulators, and that simulators of those days you will be practicing. Sushruta had practiced on that, and to make use of the simulators, any of the available materials were used. It could be a fruit, it could be a vegetable, or it could be a dead animal. In any of that, the procedures were to be practiced, and Subhahushrutopi agritayogyah karmasu ayogyah bhavati. Even if you have all the theory knowledge, well versed in the theory, if you have not undergone a course of hands-on training, then it will be of no use. And that was the motto of the study. So environment where Sushruta had studied was of that sort. Now we will come to the next aspect of the study, that the course or life of Sushruta. So as a student, Sushruta was having his own method of study. Then when it comes to the question of profession, so after completing the course, when it comes to the profession again, entering into the profession also had to have some norms in Sushruta spirit. One of the important is when you get into the profession, it has to be Rajanujñatena. You have to have a license. Even now you have to get a license. The administration has to give a permission. And to get that permission, there had to be some method, though we don't get the detail of method, but it would be something like a test or so on. Then the important basic criteria are the Upasita Tantrathena, Drishtakarmana, Krita Yogyena, Shastram Nigadata. The person who enters into the practice, he has to have a clear-cut knowledge of the exact scope of the subject. It's not the theory, it's the Tantrartha. The exact scope of the subject should be understood. Drishtakarmana, there should be a previous exposure to this practice study, and Yoga Vidhi also, the hands-on training also had to be done, and the person in the practice should always be committed to the science which he had studied, Shastram Nigadata. And of course, one of the other important area of the practice would be Anudhata Veshena. During the practice, as such, the person would not be in a position where he has to be identified by his dress. The dress code would be which would be acceptable to the society and which will be something like friendly to the society. At the same time, all those essential support to the practice have to be kept in Susahayavata. There should be a support mechanism which is already part of the practice. It has to be done, and this is how Vishikha Anupravesha. Vishikha Anupravesha is during the course of the study, a student would have a dress uniform code, and that uniform code would be he would have a shikha. The hairs would not be cut. But once the course of the study is over, when he gets into practice, he would be pruning his hair, cutting the hairs, and that's the Vishikha. And again, during that period, again, Sushruta period, that was an interesting issue. During the study, student would have a kashaya vastra, something like a grey cloth. But once he gets into the practice, it will be shukla vastra, your white afterwards. So almost there is a similarity of the environment of the study and then the course. Some part of the environment is identical, but some part of the environment is not so identical. And once you get into the study, Sushruta once you get into the practice, Sushruta had a very careful allegiance to maintain the character. Medical profession is such a profession where there would be thousands of eyes where a physician would be continuously tested, and the character is the most important. And that's why Sushruta says, when you deal with the person of opposite sex, your behavior should not be to the level where it can draw the attention of others. So that's the issue. Then during the practice also, you can develop what Sushruta had developed was the methods of examination and the methods of dealing with the patient. They should be meticulously followed. If they are not followed meticulously, it can result in a confusion in the clinical approach. And that's what Sushruta says, mithya drishtahi vikaraha durakhyataha tadevacha. If your history taking, durakhyataha, if your history taking is not proper, and if your method of examination, mithya drishta, are not proper, or if your interpretation of the science and skills, science and symptoms are not proper, dushparimrishtascha, mohe, at the end you will be getting confused. So during the practice, these important basic 5 parts of the practice, like a proper history take, proper examination of the patient, and then the proper interpretation of the signs and symptoms, they are the 3 parts of the practice. They had to be followed, and Sushruta had followed them meticulously. And Yesha Agama Siddhatvat Taiva Paladarshanath Mandravat Samprayoktaviyam Namimamsam Katajana Amimsani Achintyani Prasiddhani Agamen Upayajani Beshidani Vichakshani. So whenever there is a specific textual support, and then if there is a pratyaksha phala darshana in any of the processes, either it could be the processes of the medicine, they have to be followed without any further doubt about that protocol. Only you have to have some idea of the assessment if you are having a developing a new practice as such. But this would not be suppressing the innovative ability of the practice. I will come to that part later. The practice should be rational, and the rational is a practice where the norms of the practice would be प्रत्यक्ष लक्षण फलाः प्रसिद्धाश्च स्वभावतः नौषधीः हेतुविद्वान् परीक्षेत कदाचन. The same thing which I have told in the study period, the same has to be followed in the course of the practice also. The pratyaksha lakshana phala and the textual support, they have to be followed. The practice is not simply to make money. Instead, it has to be to help the suffering humanity. And every person, a patient coming to a physician, and particularly to the Shalya subject, Shalya area, surgery area, if a person has to be operated upon, the patient will be knowing that he will be having pain. So he is ready to accept the pain with a hope that he will have a cure. And I always say that allegiance of a patient to a surgeon is much more than his allegiance to the God. When you go to the God, you will not be expecting some pain as a reciprocation. You will be always expecting the God to give you some favor. But a patient who comes for a surgery would be knowing that he will be having some pain, but he has a very high confidence on the surgeon that at the end he will have some relief. And such a situation is what Sushruta says, Vishrati Atmana Atmanam. Patient would not be bothering about any of his situation, and he is surrendering to the surgeon. And in such a situation, a surgeon has to consider that patient almost equal to Mataram, Pitaram, Putran, Bandhavan, Apidhaturaha. So you have to consider them as if they are very close to you or they are even relatives. A patient may suspect his relatives, Mataram, Pitaram, Putran, Bandhavan, Apidhaturaha. A patient may suspect his father, mother, or his child, but he will have a full confidence on the surgeon, and surgeon has to reciprocate, and that is the basic approach of the humanitarian practice. The goals of the practice again, now if you read any of the other contemporary texts, again I'm not criticizing or commenting on any of the other issues, but usually what you see in Charaka Samhita is Natmartham, Napikamartham, Adabhutadayam. The practice is supposed to for the welfare of the humanity and nothing for yourselves. So nothing for yourselves, nothing for supporting your desire. But Sushruta was realistic, and he would always say, like, your practice would be Tadidam Shashvatam Punyam Swatyam Yashasyam Ayushyam Vrittikaram Cheti. The Vrittikara, it will give you a profession so that you can survive upon. So I would consider Sushruta was a very practical and realistic. So when you are realistic, naturally you will not have Ajnana Lopa Ahita Vakya Yoga Paya Pramohehi Aparesha Bhavehi. The confusion or extra unnecessary desire, they would not be there if you have a clear-cut understanding that you are doing your profession for the sake of your a limited benefit. So you will have a definite target, and within that target, certain decorum, some guidelines would be there, and those guidelines of the practice would be followed, and that would be the realistic issue. So Sushruta was a realistic medical practitioner or surgical practitioner. But a practice would not be just directly the other way. Every aspect of the practice, there has to be a meticulous preparation, should be ready with all that preparation. And those preparations were either it could be, if it's a surgical practice, it could be the instruments and then the supporting staff, the upakaranas, and then the parikarminaha, snigdaha, sthiraha, balavantaha. It could be the instruments. The quality of the instrument also is a responsibility of the practicing surgeon. Yada sunishitam shastram romachedi susamsitam sugrihitam pramanyana tada karma suyojayeta. So you have to have all the infrastructure necessary for the practice, and you have to have the supporting staff, and then only the practice would be continued. So without meticulous preparation, getting into a practice which I usually comment on, like suitcase practice. Now these days there is one group of practitioners who will be consulting in hundreds and maybe many, though not hundreds, many hospitals and many nursing homes. where they will never have a commitment. Go to a hospital, operate upon, leave the patient, and leave the patient at the mercy of some other uh, attending doctor. And the surgeon would never see a patient before the surgery or attend the patient after the surgery. That kind of a practice was not Sushruta a cup of the coffee. Rather, he would prefer a situation where every level of the preparation was done by the surgeon himself and the surgery was being practiced as well. During the surgery or preparing the patient for the surgery and during the treatment, the whole approach would be to give a positive outlook to the patient. It's not now the issue is in the present day situation, when you take the consent of a patient, there is a legal requirement. The legal requirement is you have to inform the patient about every possible complication which can occur during the surgery, and then only the patient has to give a consent for the surgery. You are not supposed to give a assurance that the patient will be cured. This is what the current legal system says. Sushruta's method of approach to the dealing of the patient would be the patient's psychological status would be upgraded by giving a positive outlook about the outcome. And the positive outlook could be both a assurance by the physician or maybe a psychological support in terms of the Bali, Mangala, Swastivachana. Almost every protocol done by Sushruta, whether it is surgery or whether it is a pediatric practice, they are delivery or maybe any of those protocols, even Shodhana. Prior to that, a Bali Mangala Swastivachana, that assurance to the patient in terms of a positive outcome was one of the important morale boosting technique of the practice. It's not rather what we now call as soliciting the patient. Now, the currently word is used is soliciting the patient, a bad word, but it's not a soliciting, but rather building up the morale. And now, at latest, the current surgeons also now accept that there is a need to have some mechanism of building up of the morale of the patient instead of going for only these negative aspects as such. Now, a surgeon or a medicine practitioner is not the thing or is not the ultimate. He has to know the limitations. If a person is not aware of the limitations and think that he is all in all, then he will be quite dangerous. And most of the times, what happens is a practitioner who has studied for so many years would not be ready to accept the limitations of his field. But Sushruta was not of that category. Sushruta was very frank, saying that the method of the discipline of surgery is jaganya, inferior. Kushalasyapi Vaidyasya yataha siddhihi iha adhruva upakramaha jaganyo ayam atas samparikirtitaha. A surgeon saying that my technique of surgery is inferior, that shows the greatness of the person. We have to appreciate that part, which most of the present day generation would not be ready to do that. And about the surgery also, surgery is a extra skill. Naturally, you have a greater scope, but it should not be used at random. Only when there is an absolute need. So Sushruta's surgery is different from the surgery otherwise. Now, in the present day situation, one of the most common debate which occurs in the society is whether Ayurvedic surgeons have to survive or not, whether they have to continue practice or not, and what's their role. My answer is the Ayurvedic surgeon's approach would be a more conservative approach. It's not that surgery is done for the sake of the surgery. Only when there is no other alternative, then the surgery has to be done. Otherwise, the surgery can be avoided. And in the practice, having a non-surgical treatment for a surgical patient is the contribution of Ayurvedic surgeons, which I have established in my practice also. And this is what Sushruta's aim. So Sushruta would be saying the same, like Shastradi Sadhyaha, Snehadi Kriya Sadhyasya, the diseases are to be classified either as medical or surgical. In Shastra Sadhyashu, Snehadi Kriya na pratishityate. In a surgical disease, a non-surgical treatment is not avoided. It still can be tried. But the other way, the Snehadi Kriya Sadhyashu, Shastra Kriya na nishitya na kriyate. The surgery would not be done in a person where there is a possibility of other alternative. And this would be a message for the future. The present day situation, I am not criticizing, but in the present day situation, most of the times the surgery is done for the sake of surgery, and majority of the surgeries are unnecessary. and there is a need to review the present situation. And whenever there is a need for a present situation, Sushruta would be the guideline for the whole humanity. Now, it's not enough that you practice with your limited number of patients. The whole approach would be try to reach all approach, reach all classes. Suppose the technology or the medicines which you have are not affordable to a class, then that should be another alternative which can be used for others. So Sushruta has said, like every method, like every costly medicines, there will be read Sushruta, wherever there is a costly prescription or a prescription which is presented as Raja. So there would be one category of prescription for those who can afford. Immediately next, there will be another prescription which will have a simpler combination, easier and combination for the common man. And the best of the example would be in case of Prameha Chikitsa, what Sushruta said is for the Prameha Chikitsa, a person who doesn't have enough of the resources would be walking a long distance, or he can dig a well, or he can go to the cow shed and then take care of the cows. And by that, you can treat the patient. So, Adanaha, Vaidya Sambhayashat, Evam Kurvanatanditaha. So, you have to may go for such a shortcuts or alternative choices of the treatment which will be reaching to every class of the people. And this is one of the important aspect of Sushruta's practice. So it's not the only the rich people who have to be treated. There should be an alternative choice for every class of the people, and the economy would not be the driving force of the practice, but the practice should reach to all. That would be the idea of Sushruta's practice. Idea of hygiene consciousness is an essential part of the practice of Sushruta. The important are throughout the guidelines given by Sushruta would be, I think it is the same, which is very relevant in the present day situation of COVID-19 and the current norms which are to be followed. The asamrutamukha, you have to have a coverage over the face. A mask has to be used. Sushruta knew about it. Sushruta had described it as a essential part. Jimba Uddara Kasak Shavathun Utsujeta, you have to cover your face whenever you sneeze, cough, or yawn. And then the Bala Karna Nasa Sroto Dashana Akshi Vivarani Abhikusniyata, do not touch or squeeze the hairs, nose, eyes, etc. frequently. Now, these are all the norms which are followed now. The very relevant norms as a part of the hygiene is what Sushruta had practiced as an essential guideline of the life. It's not only for the practitioners, these guidelines for any healthy person as such. Now, it's not only those current norms followed and then the discipline of the study. Sushruta's practice and Sushruta's identity is about having innovative ideas. Innovative ideas are for creating some opportunity where you will be treating at a critical condition. Another example, there are plenty of such examples. I will not be able to quote all the examples, but I have given you some examples here over the screen. One is about, in case of a perforated intestines, after washing up the lavage, the intestine had to be sutured, and if you suture with any thread or other materials, there is a possibility of constriction. So absorbable sutures have to be there, and in Sushruta's period, the technology of absorbable sutures were not developed, and he had used the ants to suture those incisions. Or the method of examination in a pranesthesialia, when you have a person where there is a hidden foreign body or hidden sign of site of inflammation, and it cannot be made out clinically, Sushruta would apply a lepa of either a grita or chandana over the area, and the area where it either the grita would be dissolving first, he would be dissolving first, or chandana sandal paste would be drying first, would be identified as the location of the inflammation, and then you can treat. A thermocouple, the thermography, the techniques of that, the basic idea of that is made of that. Or simply the methods would be like wherever there is a pain and wherever there is a movement, abnormal movement, you will be considering that as the source of the examination or the source of the injury or the lesion as such. Now, a introspective assessment of the surgeon's career is another important aspect. it's not that the surgeon has to cut and then suture. The job of surgeon is not simply cutting and suturing. If at all it's only cutting and suturing, a surgeon's job would be equal to that of a butcher and a tailor. But it is not that way. You have to have a full preparation, and that preparation would be all that preparations about the knowledge, the base, and at that time of the surgery, the operating room, whatever you do. And Sushruta has said, like asammoha, a non-confusion. Every method to be followed in the surgery should follow a step-by-step protocol, and then only there will be no confusion. And at the same time, you have to have a somewhat a courage. That courage will be possible only when the protocols are followed properly, guidelines are followed properly. Shauryam, Ashukriya, the whatever has to be done at a proper timing. Asvedave patuhu, there would not be more sweating or tremors. That tremors or trembling or sweat is a important sign of your confusion, and this would be possible only when there is sufficient background information and your training is enough asset. Then it also the skill of the surgeon also is depending upon the quality of the instrument. So there has to be introspective assessment, and then the practice has to be done. Now, the treatment, whole clinical assessment and planning of the management would be done by a keen observation. And those keen observations are Yasmin Stoda Deo Deshe Sushruta Gurudapita, like a person who has some abnormal feeling in any of the area, either it could be a pain or numbness or a heaviness or maybe a abnormal sounds. The clinical examination, whatever we do now, which we consider as a the modern method of examination. You elicit a tenderness, you elicit an abnormal movement, and then you say respiratory capsaicin and so on. All these are based upon the same principle, like wherever there is a possibility of some abnormal movement or abnormal discomfort, that's the area where you have to identify the lesions. So method of clinical examination was at par with whatever is done now as the contemporary practice. Or it's the same way, like when it's eliciting the pus. Suppose one of the examples, I have just quoted a few of the examples. Okay? Like if you have to locate the area of the pus, you have to palpate the area properly, and whenever there is a fluctuation elicited, if there is a evidence of a fluctuation, that is the location where the incision has to be made. So surgery, the whole technique also followed by a thorough clinical examination. And a keen observation also is about the selection of the instrument. So diagnosis and intervention, the procedure, as well as the selection of the instruments or selection of the technology also is based upon the keen observation. And those one of the example would be like Drishyam Simham Kati Sugudam Kantam Kati. Whenever there is a easy access, you will be using the wider instrument like a Simham Kati. When the access is lesser, then you will be using a narrow or a thin instrument to have a better access. So that's how the whole practice, the surgical practice, was followed by an innovative approach by Sushruta. And it's not only that much. Sushruta had a very perfect, intensive scientific spirit, and that intensive scientific spirit is the instruments, yantras devised by Sushruta. The models for that yantra were whatever you see in the nature, either by the animals, looking at the animals or the birds, how they catch their prey. An animal would have a wider mouth and a bird would have a narrower beak as such, and the object which is carried, the grip, these are the stimulants for preparing the entrance. So it's like apple falling and then inventing the theory of gravity. It's not that way. It's just by observing the nature and methodically devising the instrument, and that's what Sushruta had done, and that's his scientific spirit. Another important aspect of the Sushruta's approach would be like devising the shastras. Shastras are there in that period were primarily used for warfare. And unfortunately, the human being, the first of his inventions, all that inventions done by the human beings were to hurt others. Is a Stone Age and then the Metal Age. In all that, what you get is the sharp instruments which are used either to kill the animals or kill the enemies. But devising those, making use of those instruments for the treatment to cure a person, an instrument which was meant to hurt or kill, converting itself, devising based upon that to cure the person, a complete U-turn in the basic approach is Sushruta's idea. It's only Sushruta who could do that, and very few people can do that kind of a reversal of the technology, a U-turn in the technology aspect as such, and that's the speciality of Sushruta. And प्रयोगोद्देश्य वैद्यस्य सिद्धिर्भवति तस्मात् परिचयं कुर्यात् शस्त्राणां ग्रहणे तथा. It's not only enough if you devise an instrument, either yantra or the shastra, but the exact technique of holding and then using. So a person who is using that instrument is more important than the real instrument as such. That's why Sushruta says the hands are the most important. Ekotram hastameva pradhanatamam yantrana. The hasta is the most important yantra because the person who uses the instrument, he is the controller and he is more important than the instrument. Now, another important aspect of the Sushruta's ideology or personality is a boldly committed to the truth. So wherever there is a need to say anything, he would be using very bold words like if a person is not following the methods properly, then he would use the word tattu na samyaka. In whole of Sushruta Samhita, you will come across at least 20 different statements where Sushruta would use the word tattu na samyaka. There could be many sorts of ideologies going on. He would be referring to all those discussions. Then when he says his view, he would say all the other views are not correct. So he had that boldness because he had committed to the truth. And that's one of the unique feature of Sushruta Samhita, which you do not see in any other Samhita, any other Samhitas, like where boldly a statement like the others, whatever the other view is not correct. And this is done without any hesitations as such. Then whenever there is a need to criticize, Sushruta would not hesitate to criticize. यश्चिनति आत्मज्ञानात् यश्च पक्वम् उपेक्षते शपचाभिवमन्तव्यो ताव अनिश्चितकार्यम्. A person who is not able to identify a suppurative lesion, whether the pus has formed or not, then he is compared to Shvapaja. Shvapaja is a person who eats dog's flesh. So unhesitating words to use, and you will see that kind of word, taskaras, thieves, or so on, quite frequently in Sushruta. So without any hesitation, whenever there is a need to criticize, Sushruta would criticize. That doesn't mean that he was irrational or so on, but he was rather very committed and very powerful in expression, so that the ills of the practice were not being continued. Or similarly, he is comparing a person who is not well skilled in the techniques of surgery or medicine, comparing to Ugra Vishahitulyam, comparing to a poisonous snake. So these words, you will get plenty of such words in Sushruta. With all this, again, it's not that Sushruta was a superhuman. I would say Sushruta was as average as any of us. One of the example I would always say is that Sushruta had used Uttarvasti Yantra frequently for introducing the medicines into the bladder, and quite frequently you will come across that instrument, the Basti Netra, to introduce the drug into the bladder. But when it comes to the question of treatment of retention of the urine, then Sushruta doesn't use that instrument. I don't know why. So I would say, like, though you had all that treasures, at times any average human being would commit such errors, and that's why I say Sushruta was as average human being as such, but he had cultivated his identities with these basic issues. The one is disciplined study, a commitment to the science, ethical practice, unblemished character, innovative techniques, scientific spirit, aware of limitations, frank truthfulness, humane approach. This is what I build up the identity of social. And I think all of these characters are the traits. They are not necessarily inborn. They can be cultivated, and if anybody cultivates, if again the question is asked to me, like who is Sushruta, and maybe question is asked to you also, one of the possible answer could be, it may be you and me. Thank you. Thank you for patient here. I would be expecting some questions.
Very thank you, Sharma sir, for such an informative and different view about Sushruta. Uh, if someone have questions, you can please ask in the chat box. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, I am able to hear you. But
Yes.
I think, are there any questions now? I think no questions are seen now.
Okay. Uh,
Okay, then if there are no questions, we'll
yes, sir.
yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I thank you on behalf of everyone for such a what we can say informative and knowledgeable session by you for our listeners, and we would like to hear a few of your thoughts in future for our listeners. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Muralidhar Sharma, for your time, sir.
Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.